Namaste and welcome to Detours with me, Anuradha Goyal, where I talk to some very interesting personalities about journeys of all kinds. Namaste and welcome to Detours. Today we have a very special guest on the podcast, Swaroop Sampat Rawal ji, who's written this wonderful book called Play, Practice, Pursue. The title is a bit of tongue twister, but the book talk gives you some very simple ways to explore the heritage. As we all know, Swaroop Sampat ji is a very accomplished model, actor. We've known her, we've seen her on television series, but you probably do not know that she's been an integral part of the new education policy, and she's designed this curriculum for schools which has an integral part as 10-day bagless school, where children go to school without any bags and they learn life skills. So we are going to see this avatar of hers today, and especially with reference to Modhera Sun Temple. I had the pleasure of meeting her a few days back, and I was fascinated the way she told me about how they use Modhera Sun Temple to teach so many different skills to children. So, Swaroopji, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Totally my pleasure.
So, tell us, how did you choose Modhera Sun Temple as a heritage site to teach so many things to your students?
Actually, it started in the pandemic. Of course, I knew about the Modhera Sun Temple. It's not that I didn't know about it. But there were two things that happened during the pandemic, which, got me interested to do this as a lesson. One was the teacher called Nima, whose school this book is based on, is, where I taught this. She went to the Modhera temple with her friends, and she took such incredible pictures there. And I said, hey, I want to go there and, visit it properly. The other bit I'll tell you a little later in connection with this. But another thing which happened was my son had gone to Italy for a holiday. And he comes back and says, in Europe, they have such beautiful heritage buildings and churches and, things like that. So I said, but even here there are. So why haven't you, why about that? Because you all have seen that, in your school days and stuff like that. So he says, no, but they're temples. So I said, those are churches. So he says, yeah, but and somehow for some reason, that generation has, we don't want to go to a temple. So I'm thinking, hey, what's happening? Where are we going wrong?
Right.
And forget about it as parents. I'm thinking as a teacher, where am I going wrong? Uh, I remember when I was in art school, we used to go to see, architectural sites or landscapes and, places like that to draw. And we had gone to Ajanta Ellora, and we had gone to, we were sitting outside the Charminar on the road drawing it. And, we didn't just go past it. We looked at it and we saw the beauty of the temples or the paintings in it. And I think that's what was missing, is that when they go on these school trips, they miss out that beauty of the place, the
Don't absorb the
aesthetics.
place.
Yeah. And so I said, I want to do something about it. And a lot of it is related to stuff like when I was studying in England and I used to go to the museum just, to look at the museum. And I used to see children going there and with their schools. And you know what they used to do? They used to look at one or two paintings. You go to a museum, seriously, you go to a museum, try it out, and you see the whole museum. You're exhausted and you haven't absorbed anything. But you go to a museum and you look at just one or two paintings. And then you start absorbing so much. Then maybe you want to go again and see another painting, and slowly you see the whole thing. And hey, the museum's there, it's not going away. So I thought, I need to rethink this whole thing about heritage visit. And I wanted to give my students a heritage visit that they would never forget.
Mhm.
A heritage visit which was fun, which was beautiful, which had stories, which had history, which had, other things you learned over there. And, especially in India, of course, we have castles and we have palaces, but some of the most important heritage visits are, our temples. Of course, we have our museums too. But why is that? It's because of Indian aesthetics, because everything was done for the glory of God, you know. And like at Modhera, the tank, the
Mhm.
Kund, there is so much to learn in it. So I wanted to take them there. And I'm going to end it here because I know
Right,
we're going to talk more about it.
right.
But
So
that is why I took them to Modhera.
right. So I'm going to ask you to virtually take us to Modhera. And
Okay.
the most fascinating part of it, like you said, our temples were dedicated to the deities, to the divine.
Yes.
So let's start with the Aditya Hridaya Stotram, which you taught to your children and you also showed them on Modhera Sun Temple. So take us there.
Anuradha, this is exactly how I was going to talk. So I think we are on the same wavelength. I mean, that's how it began, even. It was running parallel. Again, in the pandemic, there was one day when I didn't want to get out of bed. And I said, what's the use? It was so depressing. And then, I was teaching, but, online, social distancing, whereas I want to hug my kids, I want them in my lap. We're playing games together, we're holding hands. And I'm thinking, will I never be able to do this again? And if I can't do this, I don't want to get up. This is it. I don't want to get up. I don't want. And at that time, a friend of mine introduced me to Aditya Hridaya. And he says, you know what, Swaroop, get up in the morning, look at the sun, and pray to the sun god and say the Aditya Hridaya. So I started doing it, and I changed because of the stotra, because of the sun god, and because of what stotras are and spirituality is, the Sanatan Dharma. And the stotras in Sanskrit are specially created with the perfect vibration, which rejuvenate you, which make you resilient, which make you okay. You know what I mean? I'm talking about a narrow thing because
Mhm.
that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Mhm.
When that happened to me, I wanted to teach this to my students. I wanted to make them resilient, through learning of the stotra and the storytelling of it. So I decided that I'd first teach them the Aditya Hridayam, and somewhere along the line, I'd take them to the Modhera Sun Temple because both are the Surya.
Mhm.
So I started teaching them. The first thing I told them about the Aditya Hridayam is I told them the story of the Aditya Hridayam, of how when Sri Ram was so sad and depressed and felt defeated, Agastya Swami came and taught him the Aditya Hridayam, and he said that 3 times in the morning and went and defeated Ravan. And I taught my students that if you want to defeat your enemies, you will get the power from it. And I told them the whole story of it. But first day I told them the story verbally, like a story. But you must remember that that's not enough. That's great, but you need visuals. So what I did is I created a whole PPT.
Mhm.
Now that this is the modern Bharatiya teacher,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
when I've got a PPT, why should I not use it?
Please
So I
share.
had pictures done.
Mhm.
I mean, I created the whole PPT and it was real tough work. Finding the exact pictures, Sri Ram defeated, Agastya Swami coming, telling him this, the Aditya Hridayam. It was, I think, Valmiki's Ramayana was written in about between 500 to 100 BCE.
It was probably it's
Yeah, probably.
in
I'm just,
yeah.
it doesn't matter, but I'm talking about years and years and years and years and years, centuries ago. And yet, he's talking about the sun, which we are talking about in modern times. He talked about the earth movement so that you thought that the sun rose from the east of the Himalayas and it went into the Vindhyas. He talked about how it was a friend of the rain because it evaporated water and brought rain.
Whole water cycle.
The water cycle, about how the sun is the creator and the destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
In a simple way, it could be the creator of the day, and when it's over, the day gets over and it's finished. How it helps your health. Talk of, oh, you're not getting enough vitamin D, you should be sitting in the sun. And how because of health, it's wealth, Kuber,
Yeah.
and things like that. So I taught them all that. And then on the third day, we went to the Modhera Sun Temple. When we went there, we had a very fantastic archaeological society guide because it was a school. So he was explaining everything. And first thing is my students, I'm so proud of them. They go there, they look at the sun god with the 7 horses and says, ma'am, that's the sun god. So he says, yeah, okay. So why? It's got 7 horses, the 7 colors of the rainbow. Okay. Then, he went relatives, and one of them points out and says, that is Kuber. So, he was so, I'm so proud that he turns around and we were a whole lot of women there, the teachers and guests. And he says, whoever the teacher is, you really taught the students well. And I thought about this was so fantastic because he later told me that sometimes when schools come, they're so uninterested, whereas mine was so interested. So, another point here is that you see, they had a bit of the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little information, and when they got a little more, they could connect. When you don't know anything, then it's really difficult. So then, of course, he told, the history of the temple, of the king from Patan who made it. And then he talked about the Kund and everything. So we did that. We saw everything. Yeah.
It's very interesting what you say because you always, as a teacher, your job is to take the students from what they know to what they don't know.
Exactly. And you know what? Of course, a lot of people say, oh, go and find out, first. What am I going to find out if I don't know anything? You need something to start on. You need that first step, or you need a little holding hand. It is, like Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, where if you're here, a teacher can push you to here.
Right.
But if you're somewhere there out of the way, what's going to happen? Like it doesn't work.
No, that's how the knowledge flows. It's very simple. All our scriptures tell us about it. They always start with curiosity. What is your curiosity?
Yeah,
once
exactly.
Once you know your curiosity, then the teacher can take you from that question to answer and lead you to the next question.
Right. So that's what we did. But you want me to take you through the whole day?
Yes.
So actually,
so we focus on the Aditya Hridayam Stotra first, how they found Aditya Hridayam Stotra on Modhera walls.
Yes, so they found it on the walls because it's there on all the sides,
Mm-hmm.
So they could see the whole stotra written there. And, of course, there's Saraswati right in the beginning. And then, all the Aditya Hridayam Stotra as in Ramayan part is not there.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole part of the description of the sun, the relatives of the sun, and all those stories are there on the 3 walls of the temple. So they saw all that. And of course, they saw those beautiful pillars and everything. At this point, I want to tell you something which is very sad, is that every idol in this temple is being destroyed some way or the other, in a very small way, unlike other temples. Maybe a nose is cut, or a breast, or an arm, or something like that by the Islamic invasion. Yet they cannot take away from the beauty of this temple. So, in spite of doing that, this temple is one of the most glorious temples, and it's so beautiful. This, in a way, upset my students, and they asked, why was this beauty destroyed? You know, I think that is a little sad,
Scandal.
but I think they should learn it. I think as you grow up, now they're in the eighth standard, they go into the ninth and the 10th, and they should slowly, slowly realize what was happening in our history.
Also, one is to know history. What I want my readers or my followers to do, especially younger generations, is to take inspiration from these masterpieces and bring them in our contemporary design. And also, somewhere we should have that capacity to rebuild these places.
Exactly. So there are 2 points in this,
Mhm,
and this goes with heritage visit and the stotra,
mhm,
because I believe our children should have holistic education.
mhm,
And for me, it's not only mine. I believe it's the correct definition of holistic education,
mhm,
because
mhm.
uh, holistic education is for the whole child, right?
Right.
And
But
that
Deepti,
is,
can you move a little back because your face
no,
is
let me
very
complete this one bit,
okay.
then
Okay.
I will go back. So it is, for years, people are saying it's the intelligence in education. Then slowly, slowly, people realized, oh, it's emotions too. But then they realize physical and social. So holistic is intellectual, emotional, physical, social. Now, the two very important ones, spiritual and aesthetics. And that is what this whole thing is about. The beauty of the stotra, the spirituality of the stotra, the beauty of Modhera, the aesthetics of Modhera, the spirituality of Modhera, the intelligence of it, which I will tell you more later on,
Mhm.
and everything about it. So that's what I wanted to say. And one more thing, sorry. It's
Take your
because
time.
this whole thing is based on it, is everybody goes कर्मयोग 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 कर्मयोग, yes, but कर्मयोग के साथ ज्ञान योग और भक्ति योग है, and they are together. You cannot separate them, so they have to be together. And as Adi Shankaracharya did, the Gyan Yoga were his commentaries, the Bhakti Yoga was his incredible stotras, and you know what his Karma Yoga was? Reviving all the beautiful temples that were broken. So you understand, this is all about Bharat, and our Sanatan Dharma, and our Sanskriti.
Yes,
Over to
yes,
you.
yes, yes, yes. So, in fact, I always say that temples are a culmination of all these things you mentioned, So, you physically walk to them, or you physically walk around them, you emotionally connect to them, you spiritually connect to them, you have the aesthetics inbuilt in them, and they bring together community. So, they are a social point as well.
And it's so obvious in Modhera, the
Yes,
beautiful steps,
yes.
of the Kund, where, in ancient times, I could just imagine, that the men and women coming there, the children playing in the garden, and, bringing
Singing.
the whole community together.
Yes, yes, yes. So now from the our scriptural stotras mapped onto the in the sculptures of Modhera Sun Temple. So let's move to the other subjects you used Modhera Sun Temple for, and one of the very intriguing and which many people may not relate to is mathematics.
Yes, that is So
So tell us
good.
how did you teach mathematics using a temple?
Okay, so in Modhera, the Sun Temple, like, when I said there are other things that you can learn, well, in Modhera, the most obvious one is the Kund. And in the Kund, the steps are there and they are exact fractals. So, our students learn fractal geometries here, this repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And there is another thing, the Fibonacci
Sequence.
sequence, which is there in the steps. So these were the two things that my students learned. They were introduced a little before, the day before. And after that, we did the Serpensky's triangles with the understanding which we gained from the Kund of Modhera.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you see the repetition of style in a lot of temples, but I'll just talk about this. You see that in the pillars, and you see that you see the repetition of style in the patola design,
Mm-hmm.
and you see them in the Asopalav Pan.
Mm-hmm.
The patola design was specially created because the king came from Patan,
Mm-hmm.
and patolas are very famous there, so he brought that design into it. So they are there in the borders,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very easy to identify for our students,
Mm-hmm.
like if you tell them draw it or copy it, they're just in the eighth standard,
Mm-hmm.
you don't think they'll be able to do that. We, as college students studying the commercial art, found it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them, find the simplest design you like and copy it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And what I did besides that mathematics was pottery.
Mm-hmm.
The day before we left from school, I had given each child a ball of clay, this size. And the clay was ready. It was soft, and they had to wrap it up in a plastic telly and then put it in a cloth bag and take it home and bring it when they came in the morning. So, that made it easy because you see, we had 92 students. It would have been difficult to carry so much clay for us. So each kid was given their clay. Of course, we had extra in case somebody forgot. After they saw the temple, there was one thing in between, which I think is very good learning, is we as a school were allowed to have our snacks in the garden. Otherwise, they don't allow it.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat in the circle and had our snacks, and we cleared out the garden exactly the way it was when we came in. In fact, we cleaned it out more. That's something we need as teachers to ingrain into our students, to respect our heritage sites, not go and write Amit loves somebody and, draw arrows and, in the caves. I think it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we taught our children, to respect this heritage site. I think that's a very important learning, and that's why I mentioned it here.
Right.
After that, they had to make what we in Gujarati call rotlas, small chapatis, not thin, thick. And on that, they had to do a clay drawing, draw with a toothpick
Mm-hmm.
or a stick. And, they had to draw whatever inspired them from that temple. And so they did maths, they did learning about heritage, they did history, they did art, as in the pottery, and they did photography. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, we specially had a special lecture of taking a selfie.
Mm-hmm.
But the selfie had to be taken in such a way that that heritage site was there.
Mm-hmm.
So they learned cell phone photography, which is a part of the course they were doing in the 10 years. So they took pictures of their friends, of course. They took pictures of me. And they got they did this beautiful picture of me sitting on the steps and things like that. And they learned how to take selfies with the heritage site.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of learning. Oh, yes, there's another thing which we taught them was EVS. You see, the way this beautiful kund is made by the king
Mm-hmm.
is that it actually brought the ground level of water higher.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it preserved water So when there was a dry season, the village had water.
Mm-hmm.
So, they learned about water preservation and about the, correct use of water, etc. in this heritage site.
Right. So, in a heritage site, based on your book and our conversations, you taught them the scriptural representation, you taught them history, you taught them maths, you taught them photography, clay modeling, sketching also you did, if I'm
Yes,
not wrong,
yes,
sketching
yes,
and
yes,
drawing, right?
yeah,
So, sketching can be sketching, drawing, painting,
yes.
whatever.
All the arts together. Yeah.
All the arts together. Then taking selfies, of course, within photography. Did you do any singing and storytelling?
No, the storytelling was done as the history lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because that's one thing which we always do
Mm-hmm.
is, we teach it as a story.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we live storied lives. All of
Mm.
us are stories. History is a story too.
Right.
So if you begin it as a story, then it becomes so much more interesting to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So they learned about how the king of Patan had come, and how we dug up this passage and he did this temple, and all that. So they learned it as a story. We really didn't do any singing there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons is, making too much noise in the heritage site is not fair,
Right.
because there are other people there too.
Right. Right. Right.
So we had to believe that we needed to maintain that, the dignity of the place.
Right.
So whatever we did is we did it in nice, in a good sound and, kind of silence.
So no, my idea of doing this came from a lot of dance festivals that we have at a lot of
I know.
things like Khajuraho Dance Festival
The
or
dance festival here too, on the 21st of September and May,
21st
right?
March.
March, sorry,
Yeah,
March.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and again, dance used to be an integral, dance music and all these things were integral parts of our temple celebrations.
Yes.
So I hope we bring that back at some point in time,
I
not
would
just
have
as
loved
festivals.
to take them there at that time, but it was not possible because
It's
we
not
did,
possible.
yeah,
Yes, I mean,
because we did ours in June. School is
right.
closed at that time.
Right. No, I'm saying in terms of you bringing back dance as part of ritual dances and not just as
Uh,
ticketed dance festivals.
yes, like for
But
example, when we're talking of Gujarat and we're talking of Garba, then the Garba is the dance to the Durga Ma.
yeah,
It is not just eh, you know,
it's
that is fun because that is a part of our spirituality. Because that's what it is. Like even here, we had so much fun. You can never miss out the fun element. And God Himself says that, life is that. You're supposed to
yes.
enjoy it. It has to be fun.
Yeah.
You
So as you
know,
know, I have a book on Navratri and we studied Navratri.
yeah,
So for Navratri, Devi Bhagavad Puran says that on the 8th and 9th day, Ashtami and Navami of
yeah,
Navratri, you must do a Ratri Jagran, which is,
yeah,
you should stay awake the whole night and
yeah.
you should have my Utsav by singing and dancing. So
It's
it's some,
Utsav.
yes, it's Utsav by singing and dancing, so you please me. So
Yes,
that's what essentially we do in a garba or in the Mata ka Jagrata and
yes.
lot of those things. Hopefully, we will not reduce them to a DJ party, which we seem to have done
Too
lately.
sad.
Yeah, but I'm sure as people realize, as people know, so it also comes a lot from our ignorance of not knowing the reason. And I'm sure as people learn, as teachers like you bring it back into our lives, I'm sure we will go back to our roots and celebrate the divinity
Yes.
everywhere. So I'm very happy that people like you are taking lead and bringing it back so holistically into our lives. And
Thank you.
also I don't want our temples to be reduced to museums, and I'm going to share a dream with you. One of my dreams is to see a few of our temples, our heritage temples, which are the most beautiful temples, become practicing temples, and one of those temples is Modhera.
I
So
know.
all you have to do is do a Murti Pran Pratishtha, and it can become a, because the temple is intact. and the same goes for Kandariya Mahadev temple in Khajuraho and a few other temples, which are beautiful
Kunal.
temples. I want them to be practicing living temples and not become monuments. That's my dream. If
That's a
it will come
lovely
true,
dream. I
if it
wish
will
it
come
comes
true in
true.
my lifetime or not, I don't know. But I definitely want to see some of these temples become practicing temples. They should not be relics. They should be living entities.
Yes.
They've slept for a long time.
Yes.
So that's it. So tell me, what would you tell a usual school teacher, or what can they do on a day-to-day basis to bring all this into curriculum, or to invoke curiosity in their students?
The first thing I always tell, there are two messages I always give my teachers, and I've said that forever, and I will go on saying it forever. The first thing is they have to remember that their lesson has to be fun, come what may. And now today I learned a new, not learned, but I recognize a new word today, utsav. And I'm going to now tell them that every day your lessons have to be an utsav and they have to celebrate Saraswati Ma. So it has to be joy and an utsav. That's one thing. The second thing is that I always tell them that there are three professions which are caring professions. One is the doctor, the other is the nurse, and the third is the teacher. You have to care. If you don't care, you're in the wrong place. So, two things, fun and care. Now, one of the other things I believe in is that they need to include art into their teaching. Art is a very broad term, and art includes a lot of things. But like so, I would say it includes drama, it includes painting, drawing, pottery, music, dancing. So many things come under art. But one of the most important thing is remember this. Art stands for ART, right? A for action, R for reflection, and T for transformation. So when we practice art, we do the action and there's reflection. There is a transformation in the child. So this is very important. Art, reflection, transformation. And this is because it's all experiential learning. So it's very important. Remember, like I said, reflection. Sometimes, what they do is they make you draw, they make you paint, they make you do an action, a song, but there's no reflection, there's no manan, there's no chintan. And without this manan and chintan, there is no transformation. So these three things I think are the most important thing: fun, care, and art.
But the gap I see is because the current generation of teachers, when they were students, they never got exposed to this. So
So
so they themselves are not aware. So what
I
could
wasn't.
yeah,
I'm
none
from
of
that
us.
generation,
Neither
and
was
I
I.
was such a poor student.
And I did not even study art. And
I was a science student. I was
so
studying science to become a doctor. Can you
I
imagine that?
same here. I mean, I was studying. I did my masters in a science subject, and here I am talking about art and architecture and temples and everything.
No,
But
no, that's not an excuse. I'm sorry, Anuradha.
no, no, I'm saying
I mean, like,
I'm
I'm not like saying it to you. I'm saying it to all the teachers who are
right,
listening.
right,
It's
right.
not an excuse.
Yes,
You
and today
have
there
to
are
bring it in.
today you have ample resources online available for you to educate yourself.
And another great thing I'll tell you
Mhm.
is as a teacher, they should have read the NCFSE 2023. And that is just filled with art integrated studies.
Do you want to share an example of that? Because you use drama a lot in that. So if you can share an example which potentially can inspire teachers.
Of course, like this was an art integrated. lesson of maths, and history,
Right.
the Modhera Sun Temple. What shall I tell you about? There are so many, where it's like you just for everything can integrate drama into it. One
Mm.
of the things is drama is just so easy to get into it. Like there is one very beautiful way of teaching, which is called Mantle of the Expert.
Mm-hmm.
And it was created by this great teacher called Dorothy Heathcote. And I will give you one example. I am talking to my students, and now all of your students are running a tour industry, are running a tour company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you all are expert tour guides and, creating holidays for
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do is a client has come and you have to make a holiday, create a holiday for them to,
Let's say Varanasi.
okay, say Varanasi. And now you have to create a tour holiday for them in Varanasi. Now, because it's Varanasi, you have to include the history. But because it's Varanasi, you include the spirituality. But so that's the history part. Now, we will do the mathematics part through the money that is going to be spent to create this. We will do a ticket booking and the whole group that is going. So we will do it through that. Then we will have to look at the seasons,
Mm.
the social science of it to go there. So now, say they've come from abroad, then we have to understand the language part of it. So through one story, the children are doing the whole lesson. It's an integrated class of history, geography, mathematics, and everything through this drama.
Management. Yeah.
Yes. And it's ultimately a drama because they're all acting their parts.
Right.
It's not paperwork.
Right.
It's a real office that they're running, and it's an office. And then there is a beautiful thing in this, in which a teacher is actually in the outside. But if the things are not progressing, the teacher can come in as in a thing called teacher in role. So the teacher again is in role. So she would say, be a peon and
Mm-hmm.
say, this important paper was thrown out. What is there in this paper? Or,
Mm.
whatever.
Something. Yeah.
So, yeah. So this is one way. Another way which you can use it is like, which I did for, say, Chola governance and village administration. You teach them a bit about it, which is called the pretext, and then they make the whole play about the administration and how the village was run and the sarpanch and the problems that happened and how the problems were solved by the people. Or like I did this whole drama for 10 days
Mm-hmm.
of the Dandi March.
Mm.
And, we did everything about the Dandi March, which is so beautiful, like the beginning speech
Mm.
of Mahatma Gandhi. And then, when they travel from village to village, how he used to talk and he used to, problem solve or talk about, things that were happening, untouchability and alcohol, all these things, and how they reached Gandhi and why salt, why it was important to break the salt law. And they did the whole thing as a drama. But the
Mm-hmm.
best is that in this, the teacher doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
The student.
students who make the play, they make the script, they do it. The teacher's role is, to support them, give them information, or help them if they're going very wrong. Like my students, I'll tell you, I'll just take 2 minutes of your time for
Sure.
this. I was teaching this in a village,
Mm.
and none of my village children had been in a train.
Mm.
So they didn't understand when Gandhiji was thrown off the train what it meant.
Mm.
You see? So what I did is I put three mats
Mm-hmm.
and we played the train all
Mm.
over. And then I divided them into first class, second class, and third class. And the third class, I filled it up so that they were literally standing on the mat. And in this first class, there was just a few, so they were lying and rolling and making everybody jealous. Then I walked up to one guy in the first class and I said, "Why are you wearing this blue shirt? I don't like it. Get off this train." So he says, "What?" So I said, "I don't like your blue shirt. Get off it." So all of them were stunned, because I was really acting. I said, "This is not right. You can't wear blues. Get off." So they're saying, "So what, ma'am, if he's worn blue?" So I said, "Exactly. That's what happened with Gandhiji." The guy said, "You're an Indian and you can't be on this first class compartment." How did it feel? So, immediately they understood it. There was no other way they would have ever understood what it meant to be thrown off a train.
Yeah, you make them
So,
go through that emotion.
yes, you make them go through that emotion, you make them empathize with the character. They didn't understand. These are children born in free India. They did not understand what colonialism is. So I said, how would it feel? This whole village was a village. Okay. So I said, okay, now today somebody comes from outside this village and tells from today nobody's going to be a vegetarian. Everybody has to eat eggs. They said, how can they do that? So I said, no, that's the rule. So, things that are unfair, but he's saying, no, we have a right to eat what we want. So I said, I've just taken that right away.
Mm.
And I did another very nice thing is to teach them how if it feels to be your rights to be taken away, how are they going to know this? So, in the beginning of the day, I said, 10 of y'all, no fingers. You're not using your fingers. I'm tying them up. So I taped them up. 5 of them are not going to use your left hand or right hand, and I tied it up in the back. Some of them I said, no speaking. And they were happy about it till it was lunchtime. Now at lunchtime, they didn't have hands. They could not eat. Some of them who could not speak could talk, but who's listening to them? The ones with fingers had the thing, but they could not eat. And things like that. Like 2 of them I'd taken their legs away. They were strong people. So I said, your only one leg is there. And then they begged me, can you give it back to us? I said, no. And after lunch, they were so angry and nearly in tears and everything. They were really upset. After that, lunchtime, when class started, I gave them back and I said, see, this is what it means when your right is taken away. And they really understood it, It got into them that this is my right and it's been taken away. So, this is only drama can do. Nothing else can do.
True, true, true. These are very, very interesting examples. The first one that you gave, it talks about so much of multidisciplinary learning.
Yes.
Something that is again a huge gap. We teach subjects in silo. The science teacher would look down upon social sciences would look down upon English would look down upon our languages would look down upon something else, and they're as if they exist in isolation. But in life, they're all intermingled. They all come together. You may be stuck in a situation where a small 2 words of the local language may come handy, or some knowledge that you've gained somewhere. So one you're talking about experiential learning and actually feeling what happened some and at some other time and space. But the other thing is multidisciplinary, the fact that everything is related. Math is not existing in isolation. You can see it in practice. You see it in the design, you see it in architecture, you see it in our accounting, like you gave the example of planning a trip. So that multidisciplinary thing is excellent. I'm sure these examples would help a lot of teachers think in this direction and help their students. have a complete feel of the situation and not just have a, cram things, pass
Yes.
exam, get a stamp of passing out.
But
I
Anuradha, this is going to come in. So the new national framework has art integrated, sports integrated, experiential learning at all levels, even colleges.
Okay. But by
So
when can we see it in action?
as far as I understand it, it's going to be definitely implemented by the next academic year because the textbooks are hopefully going to be set by
Okay.
then. And, people are working on things.
Okay.
And yeah, we're just hoping that it comes fast, but it is slowly coming in because there is a thing called the National Mission of Mentoring,
Mhm.
which is under the National Council for Teacher Education. And we have already started mentoring teachers how to use art integrated studies, how to use sports integrated studies, how to teach Sanskrit differently, and all that.
Right. Great. Do you want to talk a little bit about this bagless school initiative for those who may not know it?
I would love to talk about it. So this bagless thing is actually there in the NEP 2020 and in the National Curriculum Framework, but it is not, it doesn't really say what you're supposed to be doing except exposure to pre-vocational education or vocational education. You see, from 2007, I have been doing these 10-day drama camps in a small village near Gandhinagar. It's a village called Rajpur. Like I did this Dandi March thing over there. That's the village I'm talking about. And it's 10 days because it starts on Bhai Beach ka day
Hmm.
and it gets over on the 10th day and the 11th day school starts.
Mhm.
So I used to do it in the village school. And I would take one subject and teach it through drama for 10 days. And it would be a camp. So there would be lots of fun and all that. And it was bagless because, except maybe a diary and a pen to write reflections, that's all. And around that time in 2012 and 13, I helped write the National Vocational Educational Framework. And that starts with the children in the ninth standard.
Mhm.
9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and college, the bachelor years, the undergrad years. According to me, I thought that was too late.
Mhm.
I think we need to introduce our children into vocations earlier. So we need to teach them different vocations. Just see it.
Mhm.
Like my father did with me. He would take me to museums, he showed me art,
Mhm.
he showed me drama, he showed me films. I saw the best of things. I learned about how Spielberg, the great director, had a camera when he was a little child. My children made plays in their summer holidays. They went to the museum and they did pottery. They did all kinds of arts and everything. There are in India over 3,000 arts and crafts.
Mhm.
If our children don't learn it at a young age, they're never going to learn it. And if they don't learn it, these arts and crafts will die, which is a very sad thing because we've got such beautiful weaves. We've got so many different types of pottery. We've got so many, like art on the bamboo, on the palm leaf, on paper, which is handmade, and different type of arts. And there's so much in India. So my whole wish was to introduce the children. That is, I believe that our students should be introduced into these arts at a young age. I'm not saying that you become a potter.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you become a tailor. I'm not saying you become a painter. But see it all, learn it, because from this you may find something that is what you want to do. Another thing that comes in is in this village where I did this, they pass the potter every day.
Right.
They did not think that besides the pot, you can make something that's so beautiful. And they did it in the camp. They made beautiful pots and they did Kutch painting, a
Right.
Kutch style of painting, a Kutchi style of painting.
Right.
Like my students did an appropriation of a painting of Gemini Roy.
Mhm.
They're farmer children, yet they learned Gaya Dharit Sajeev Kheti.
Hmm.
They did robotics to make toys and solar panels. They stitched. There were boys and girls who learned stitching.
Mhm.
So, and to upscale a cloth that was waste. And from that, they made beautiful bows. And then when we asked the boys, what are you going to do with the bows, to tease them? They said, what nonsense. I've got two sisters and I'm making it for them.
Mm.
So you see this boy girl thing, this, forget it, so all that is broken, and the children are learning arts and crafts. The beginning of learning the art, aesthetics, the craft, there's so much beauty in it. Besides, like I told you, they learned maths and they learned life skills and they learned so many other things in this. So, like they did the Tod Ford Jod in the robotics class,
Mhm.
where they broke up things. And you know what? The girls made the best things, the mechanical toys. So,
Yeah,
yeah, they did, like we had these beautiful cell phones given to us as a gift by Nokia, and we did cell phone photography.
mm,
Not anything else, particularly cell phone photography. So there is so much to learn, and it's so much fun. Now the children love their school because this is the place they had fun.
right.
So there is so much to learn in this. And what my dream is, that every school has an art room. I would love to see one loom over there,
Right.
and the children learn weaving of
Right.
different kinds,
Right.
like the way Maheshwaris were revived
Right.
in
Right.
MP. So
Right.
then we don't lose it. Otherwise, from pattern the
Mm,
patolas will go,
right.
and this double ikatto is never done anywhere else.
Right. So
So
I hope a lot of teachers listen to you and
I hope a lot of school leaders listen to me,
yes, yes, yes.
because they are the ones who would be inspired to do this.
Right,
Use this 10 days. Bagless doesn't mean wasting time.
right,
And fun doesn't mean you're not learning. And
right,
if you're learning, doesn't mean you're not having.
right, right. No, the
So,
best learning happens when you're enjoying yourself.
absolutely. So, I really hope school leaders and even parents, actually read my book
Yes.
and understand what it means,
And
of the whole.
I also want to tell that it's not just a book, it's a workbook. If you can see, it's a workbook which you
Yes.
can literally use. So please go ahead. We are going to give a link to the book in the description of
How
this
sweet
video.
of you. Thank you.
And I seriously hope that people reach out to you to take a lot of this knowledge from you and implement it.
It
And
should. It would be so much fun. Can you imagine 10 years hence, all schools have an art room
yes,
where, like this school actually has it. They
right.
do pottery, they've got the paints, they've painted stuff, and they've got their cell phones, which
My dream is that school walls should be painted by the outgoing class of the student.
that happens.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, that happens a lot.
I
But
have
that's
not seen a school where the
you. No, no,
children paint walls.
you come and see in Gujarat. I'll send you
Okay.
pictures. Lots of it happens. But the real art, like this pottery and this
Crafts, yeah.
weaving and these crafts and, cane weaving, bamboo weaving, this. And you can make entrepreneurs from this,
Right, right, right.
because after they've learned it, then they can, like one girl said, she saw this Gemini Roy painting which she had created, and then she saw it in the catalog, and then the catalog, it was over some 10, 12, 30, 40 lakhs. And she says, ma'am, atlu mongu painting che.
Mm,
So I said, yeah. So she says, do you think I can make a painting that's so expensive? I said, why not?
mm.
So she was sitting in the head teacher's room on the floor, and she looks at her head teacher fondly and she says, the first portrait I will make is of her. So I
Wow.
said, just think, that girl was actually a younger girl. She was only in the fifth grade. And she said, and imagine this fifth girl, otherwise what they want to be: police, teacher, maybe doctor. Now, this fifth standard girl is dreaming to become a world class painter.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful?
You're opening up their world. You're giving them a wider horizon.
Exactly.
Great, Swaroopji. Thank you so much for. I learned a lot from you today.
Thank you for
And
listening to me, actually.
learn every time I meet you, but today you gave some
Oh,
very practical examples which people can hopefully use. So we'll keep coming back to you every time you publish a book.
how sweet.
So
Thank you.
thank you so much for doing
Thank you.
this. And we
Thank
wish you
you.
all the best for all the work that you are doing for the education of children in this country.
Thank you. Thank you, Anuradha. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on Detours. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle is IndiTales, INDITALES. See you soon.